Hi, and welcome back to All of Math, Episode 8, Decimals and Percents. Today we're going to be going over percentages and decimals and how to convert from fractions to decimals to percents and vice versa. But let's go ahead, let's start with decimals and the symbols of decimals and percents. Decimals here are defined by this little dot, and percents are defined by this 0 over 0 symbol. It would be Shift 5 on any standard keyboard. Alrighty. Then we're going to move into a calculator recommendation. I do recommend a calculator for this lesson, although it is not required. In future lessons, calculators will be required, but as of now, it's not required. You can work all this stuff out on paper, and I'm going to teach you some methods to do that. But first, we need to know about something new, something that flips the counting episode on its head, and that is numbers between numbers. So this is the standard number line as I taught in the counting episode, but what I neglect to tell you is that between each of these numbers is another set of numbers, infinite numbers, infinite being an endless amount. So just as we can count endlessly starting at 0 and make the numbers go as high as we want, we can use that same logic to numbers between numbers. So we're going to look between 1 and 2 right now, and we'll look at these numbers. So we do 1 decimal point 1, and it counts up behind the decimal point until we get to 2. And then there's numbers between these numbers as well. So 1 decimal 1 and then 1 decimal 2. There's an infinite set of numbers between these numbers as well. And so 1.0 or 1.10, 1.1, and you can do this until you get 1.111, 1.1111, and it can go on forever and ever and ever, and all of these numbers are contained between a value of 1 and 2. Here's a common mistake as well. Take a look at the number here on the left. This number does look really big, and it is a large number to write out, but it is less than 2, right? Remember the less than symbol? It's less than 2. This number is less than 2. So how do we write decimals? Decimals, so 1.00000, we're going to write it all the way out, all the zeros equals 1, because there's no other number here that we can see or that we were given, so we just assume that it is equal to 1, which it is. Same with just 2, 1.00, it's equal to 1. Alright, now let's go to this one, 1.00000 all the way to 1. That is not equal to 1. We will write this out as 0.00001 if asked to. Alrighty, and these are all in place of number 1. Bonus lesson rounding, right? This number is huge, right? And we definitely can't write that out. So a lot of times we're just going to assume it's 1. And by doing this, we're going to round. A simple rounding rule, that all rounding will be specified to you in advance, right? So if I ask you a question and I'll say round to the nearest 10, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're going to round that number down. And from rounding up, it's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I did a little example here with decimals. So here we're rounding to the tenths place, and we have the number 3.143. And since the 3 is the last number here, we're going to round down to 3.14. And we have 3.146. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to round this up to 3.15. If we were rounding down to the very first place, all of these numbers would be 3, because 1, 4, 3.15, so we would round this number up to 3.2, but then that would round down to 3. Hopefully that made some sense. Let's start moving from decimals to fractions. So here we have the fraction of 1 over 2, 1 in the numerator place, 2 in the denominator place. how do we convert this fraction to a decimal? We're just going to divide, right? We're just going to divide. Half of 1, because that's really what this is asking. 1 over 2, 1 divided by 2, 1 split in half, is 0.5. It is that middle number between these two numbers. Remember from the number line 1 dash 2, and there was all those numbers in between, 0.5 is exactly the halfway point. So now I want you to do something fun in your calculator, right? We're going to be looking at 1 over 3, right? 1 divided by 3, the fraction of 1 in the numerator over 3 in the denominator. And put that in your calculator and tell me what you get. You might get something that rounded up automatically on its own, but you should get this crazy fraction of repeating decimals. That's what it's called. If you worked it all out by hand. So 1 divided by 3 equals 0.3333333333 forever, and it goes on forever and ever and ever because there's a repeating decimal. And we will go ahead and simplify that in our writing to 1 over 3 equals 0.33. And we'll put this line above it, and this line means that the 3's go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And it doesn't stop, but we'll use this line right here and this almost imperfect number. It's still a perfect number, but almost imperfect number to describe 1 over 3 in terms of decimals. Now let's make our way into percentages. So a percentage is equal of the x value of 100, or x being any number's value of 100. 100 being not the number we're using, but the total percent filled, right? So 100% in this case is just equal to 1, or 1 decimal, right? The full value. 100% is the full value of x. A good way, we'll move into an example. What is 50% of 100? Now, some of you might know the answer off the top of your head. Yes, it is 50. And the best way to do this, since there isn't really a way, especially if these were bigger numbers or more unknown numbers, is to convert from percent to decimals and then multiply them, or vice versa. And to learn to convert from decimals to percents, we use dp. This is a little solution I like to use when converting from decimals to percents. There are other methods that work too. You could always multiply the decimal by 100. That's kind of the factor of percents, but dp is a solution I like to use, and I like to remember that with Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper is delicious, and it's going to help us with some math today. And I got this Godzilla drinking Dr. Pepper gif on the internet. Alrighty, but here is the solution, and this is why I remember dp. D stands for decimals, and P stands for percents. So in a percent, right, we'll move the decimal point, the unknown, there's the number here. Let's say the 1 is here, right, and we have a decimal point behind it. We'll move the decimal point 1 and 1, so 1% would be equal to 0.01 decimals. And to convert a decimal to percent, let's say we had 0.01 again. We'll move it here and here to give us 1%. Here's an example conversion, that way you guys can see it. We have the decimal of 0.25, and we'll move the decimal places 2 spots over, and then that'll take us to 25%. Here's a little bit more of the example explained out. So 1 times 0.25 is equal to 25% of 1. Alrighty. And then we're going to get into the homework here. This one is a little more, I kind of want you to try to jump in on your own, and then we'll go through and I'll explain all the answers, but I really want you to just try it, see what you get. So I'm going to give you 3 seconds here to pause and to work through it. Please try your best. Don't Google it. Use your calculator if you need to. I'd prefer that than you just searching up the answers. 3, 2, 1. one. Already in here are the answers. So 60% converted to a decimal is 0.60. 0.45 in terms of percent is 45%. 100% is equal to 1 in terms of decimals in this case, right? It doesn't always equal 1. So if we're taking, 2% of 6, right? And we're trying to get 100%, 100% of 6 would be 6 in that case, not 1. So this is a conversion and not always necessarily true. And then what is 60% of 10? It's 6. And hopefully you went through and you converted it to a decimal and then multiplied the decimal into 10. And then of course here I had in the challenge problem 8 over 16 in percent, and that actually simplifies down to 1 over 2, which is equal to 50%. And then bam, another bonus lesson, simplifying fractions. In this case we have the fraction 4 over 16, and I'm going to tell you that it simplifies into 1 over 4. And we do this by taking the numerator of 4 and the denominator of 16 and finding a common factor, which is a number that divides into both of them. So we'll take the 4 and we'll divide it by 4, which equals 1, and we'll have 16 divided by 4, which equals 4. And we can do this because 4 and 16 are both easily divisible by 4, giving them a common factor of 4. So 1/4 is equal to 4/16. 4 over 9 is equal to 4 over 9, since there are no common factors for us to simplify this expression. This is as simple as it gets. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Please like and subscribe to Broad Enough Learning, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.